Hi, everyone. Greetings from sunny Southern California, the Webb campus here. I'm Allison Hansen. I'm the Associate Director of Leadership Gifts. I work in the Advancement Office. We're responsible for parent relations, donor relations, as well as securing resources for the school. My husband, Eric, is a teacher here on campus, and my family lives on campus, so we're happy to be here. Also today is Owen Wolf. He's the Assistant Director of Admissions. He's going to go over some technical issues with us to help help things run very smoothly for this afternoon. So we'll go ahead and start with that, and then we'll introduce our guest speaker for the day.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Allison, and welcome everyone. Thank you for making the time to join us for our very special presentation today. Before we get to our guest speaker, if you would be so kind as to scroll your mouse down to the bottom of your computer screen and click on the icon that appears that says Q&A. That will open a box, and if you would be so kind as to type the city, state, or country from which you are tuning in into that box, that will help us to make sure that our Q&A functionality is working appropriately for tonight's presentation. That's important because the Q&A box is going to be your best friend throughout the duration of our presentation. If at any time you have a question for our keynote speaker, please don't shout your question into your computer. We will not be able to hear you, but if you type it into the Q&A box, we will do our best to answer as many as we can in the time that we have today. So it looks like our Q&A box is working well. I also want to call your attention to the chat function that you also see at the bottom of your screen. If you at any point would like to message me, Allison, or our guest speaker, you're welcome to type into the chat message there as well, and we would love to communicate with you that way as well. So it looks like everything is ready to go. So Allison, all you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Owen. So joining us today is Miss Lily Chen. Her son Eugene is Webb class of 2022. Lily divides her time between Shanghai and Southern California. So thank you so much for joining us, Lily. So the format for today, I'm going to ask Lily some questions about her and Eugene's experience here at Webb. And then at the end, we'll have some time for our viewer questions as well, if you'd like to do that. So thanks again, Lily, for joining us. And we'll get started right away with our first question is, how did you hear about Webb and what made you want to apply to the school?
Yeah, thank you, Allison, for your invitation. I'm very glad to join this morning, though it's very early in Shanghai. I heard about Webb when I was in my high school years. You know, I actually attended public high school in LA when I was a teenager, like Eugene's age. And also it's very close to home. So that's why we also heard about it from our friends in Shanghai, and they highly recommend it. And then they highly encourage us to have a campus tour to kind of further understand the school. So that's how I first hear about Webb. And what made me want to apply, there are like a few factors. One is that when we were in the campus, we loved the campus. It's very clean and relatively like a small college. You know, I took some pictures of the campus, and some of my friends were like, it looks like a small Stanford. The fountains and the statue in front of the library, especially. And also the museum, which is very impressive. So one of my friends, and she was like, oh, you know, my son goes to the school for summer, and they really love the museum. So we had a museum tour as well. And also the friendly staff. So we were greeted by the friendly staff, and then we asked a lot of questions. Actually, the tour guy, he wasn't really, you know, annoyed or anything by our questions. And also, you know, in Shanghai, we look at the ranking of the schools. Of course, in the States, nobody really cares, but then in Shanghai or in Asia countries, we do. So we look at the ranking of the school, which is very good in terms of rankings, and of course, it changes all the time. And then also, most importantly is the California weather. So we were debating between having Eugene to go to the East Coast or West Coast. So we went to the East Coast with Eugene together the year before we applied. It's always gray and dark and raining and things like that. And so we didn't want it because we want our son to be more, feel more sunny and,
For sure.
things like that, right? So so the weather is most important. And also during the COVID-19 situation, I think that the weather also plays a good, very important for us, because then the school probably can have a class outdoor, with the good weather. So those are the factors that we were, considering before we apply.
Wonderful. So my next question for you, a lot of our parents, these are newly admitted families today, and we're so glad that they're here. What advice do you have for them as new families joining Webb?
So they're going to expect, their children having a different lifestyle if they're coming from overseas. Actually last night, there was a new parent to Webb. She was asking me the same question. So, even though that you're probably attending international schools in other countries, it's very different here. This is more American, the real American lifestyle, or American way of teaching, right? And then, so as a new parent, I think that you should be more open to different teaching style or lifestyle, and be able to kind of learning the change, and then adapt to the change. Yeah.
And how did you find that Eugene adapted? Did it take a while? Yeah. Was it pretty easy?
It took him like a semester. Yeah. So he didn't know what to do. He doesn't know much people. I mean, that happened all the time when you make a move, right? So, but I think this is good for him that in such a young age, he will be able to manage everything himself. Try to know other people himself, without, parents next to them and guide them all the time, and, pamper them, like when he was young. So I think he adapting very well, and he kind of know everybody on the next semester when I visited him.
Oh, good. So Lily, if you had to choose 3 words to describe Webb, what would those words be?
The first thing is academic. Actually, the school works here are very challenging. I mean, it's more challenging than I expected. So a lot of Chinese families, that they all think that China already, they have experienced very challenging academic requirements in China. But actually, when you compare to Webb, they still have to make a full effort in order to get good grades. And also the lifestyle, like I mentioned earlier, it's different kind of lifestyle that it's good for your kids to enter Webb in the high school era, because then better prepare them to go to college, right? Yeah. So there's no surprise. They tend to adopt to the American lifestyle or way of teaching before they, get into college, which is good, right? Mm-hmm. And then most important, again, is the weather. So it makes him like happy all the time. I don't need to worry about his psychological health, health because the weather. So I think that's most important. And then those are the 3 words that I can think of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm a solar powered person myself, so I really appreciate all this Southern California sun here too. So thinking back when Eugene first joined the school, what were the two of you most surprised about his experience when he first started?
We were expecting a more relaxed academic environment. so so he's like, oh, Mom, I'm well prepared, because he went to international school in Shanghai, which is actually still is the one of the best school here. So he felt like he should be more prepared. Yeah. So but then after he started school and Webb, it's more challenging than we were anticipating. So he had to put a lot of effort in academics. But we're happy to see that, right? Because that's life. I mean, when you get into college, I think that's maybe more even challenging. So that's one thing, and then also the diversity, because I attended high school here, but in the Chinese populated area. I attended Alhambra High School at the time. So there are a lot of Chinese or Asians in the high school. So there were like not as that many different color or race people there at the time. So the diversity of students and families is something that really of surprise to us, because we do have blacks and whites and people from different states or different countries. So that, so then that's one thing. Yeah, so that's about the Webb experience that most surprised us.
Yeah. For sure. And if you had to, and I know you're not Eugene, and you might not know this, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but if you had to compare, like say Shanghai International School with Webb, what are the differences that you see between the teaching styles and the learning styles, and how Eugene has adapted?
Mm-hmm. In Shanghai, I think the teaching style was more adapt to the local Chinese kind of expectations. So they are like more, the school is more like taking care of you in every minute they can, So make sure that you're pampered, make sure that you are, so that's why they call those schools like the loyal school, things like that. So so they're all pampered, they're well taken care of. So they don't need to think of anything except the school will take care of it, which is not the real world, right? So they're like in a zoo, I think. so it's not and the schools, the teachers change all the time because they are expats, right? So many of them need, a lot of classes we need to change teachers all the time. Yeah, so you never know your teacher to expect for next year class. So I mean, especially right now, a lot of teachers cannot come back, right? So that's one thing that most annoying most parents, because you don't know what to expect from your teachers next year.
So not a lot of stability among the faculty.
Exactly.
Yeah, which I think here we have faculty that have been here a very, very long time that are very committed. And as someone who lives on campus, I will say, while we may not, Webb students aren't pampered, but we do support the students. And I think you would agree with that, Lily. And there's a huge support network here for the students. But you're right. Here, when you're at a boarding school, it is a little bit different in that, kids are going to go on a Target run to get what they need, and it's your responsibility to figure out what you need from Target to help you get through the next week. So there is that whole, the growth that you experience and kind of preparation for the real world and getting ready for college. And speaking of that, so how have you seen Eugene grow since he's been here?
you know, he actually demonstrates a lot of growth, which I'm very happy with. So since he's young, we try to develop him or try to let him experience different sports. And because we all understand that sports is very important, not only for college but also for your lifetime, right? But he didn't like any of those, so we brought him over to soccer's, you know, basketball and everything. So he didn't like it. But then after the first semester of Webb, he started to fall in love with basketball, which really surprised me, and he really loved it. And then every time when he talked about it, and I'll talk about his lifetime, I mean his school life, he's always mentioned basketball. So he plays basketball after school, and he plays basketball open gyms. And then when I came back, you know, we try to have dinner together on Saturdays. And then he's like, keep watching his watch. He said, "Oh, mom, you know, the open gym is starting, so I need to go back." so, so he really in love with basketball, which is very good for him. I mean, and also he learned a lot from the coach. He told me that you know, he needs to be more competitive. He needs to try his best, you know, for winning the games. And they, after the games, they review, you know, what they did wrong, and then they have to do it right next time. And that he applies that to his academics, and also the things that he do, you know, on the everyday life, pretty well on those concepts. So this is really something that I appreciated from Webb. Yeah. So yeah. So that's one thing that I with the most influence to him.
Yeah.
From Webb. Yeah.
And 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 we touched on this a little bit at the beginning when you're giving advice for newly admitted families, but a lot of our parents are always interested, especially our international families, in ways that they can get involved with the school.
Mhm.
As an international, you know, you go back and forth between China and America, but I know I've seen you on campus and you are involved. So I'd love for you to talk about that and how our international families can get involved at Webb.
Mm-hmm. Webb has done it very well in connecting us overseas. At first, you know, I didn't know how to participate and be connected. But you know, I met parents at the Parent Day on, you know, October. Of course, next year we're gonna move it to February. And then I met the faculties and the people like you, right, at those events or meetings. And so, you know, you can always meet people and make connections. That's one thing. And then you do have a WeChat group, which is really surprising me. You know, at first I wasn't in that group, so I didn't know that you do have a WeChat group that with connecting all those parents in China. So yeah. I kind of met them in China, and then when I traveled to different cities, I shout at the group on the group, and then we had, you know, we kind of formed gatherings in the city, and also for the you know, parent day and parent meetings. And after that, we can always make appointment to meet with you know, teachers or you know, some of the faculty members if there's anything that, you know, of your concern. And of course, you know, I attended a few of the sports, the games when I was in the States, and also I actually pay for the online sports. What do you call that?
The live
Yeah. So I can actually watch Eugene in the game online. So which is fun, right? So I before going to work, you know, I watch the game first, and on the way I use my mobile to watch the games, and I get some screenshots and, you know, show it off to my friends. So that's what I did. And also, you know, the health center, and you have staff with psychological support. It's actually very good, and then it's actually a service that I really appreciated. Yeah. And then also, you know, the live streaming, you know, that we are doing right now.
And I'll add, so we have a group, our parent council is called our affiliates, and anyone is welcome to join that, even our international families. We have it through Zoom. So you don't have to miss any meeting if you'd like to take part in any of our affiliates events. And also, as Lily was saying, once everything settles down with COVID, Webb does travel extensively throughout Asia, having gatherings for all of our families, so you can meet one another. And did I hear you mention, Lily, that last week you had a gathering with Webb families from Shanghai?
Yes. Yeah. So that was fun, you know. And then I can meet up with the families, you know, the local student families.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then learn from their angle of, you know, what they see. There's the children having, you know, fun in the school and things like that. And then I think most importantly, I think you know, everybody talking about COVID-19, but I think that Webb has done a good job in communicating with the families. You know, make a very sharp decision early on to close the campus, make sure that everybody can have time to arrange, you know, etiquette to go back to Shanghai. Of course, we made the decision having Eugene to stay in the States, but at the time, a lot of families, they can still buy ticket. So I think among the families in Shanghai and in China, they really appreciate it. You did make a very good decision on that, and having the students being taken care of. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We have just a couple more questions. So as Eugene has been here at Webb, how have you found your relationship with him change? You know, a lot of parents are like, oh, I'm sending my kid off to boarding school. Everything's going to change. Has it changed for the better, or what have you found over time with your relationship with Eugene?
Yeah. That's something that I worried at beginning, like all other parents, because, you know, to me, he was still young. He was like just turned 14. And then, but he really wanted to, you know, live independently. So when started when he was like 11, and then he told me and my husband and said, well, I want to leave you guys, you know, I don't want to stay with you. So we felt, you know, so sad, you know. But finally, you know, as the day that he needs to leave home, of course, as a parent, we really don't want to leave him alone. But then that's his choice, and we honor it. So, but actually, the distance makes it beautiful in terms of relationship. I realized that after our, you know, first separated, he couldn't help to kind of push me out. He's like, oh, you know, oh, mom, it's time for you to leave the campus. So I was so sad. I'm like, how she really want to leave me. But after that, the first time that we met after our first separation, I can feel that he kind of, he tend to try to take care of you and, you know, guide me through the campus, you know, greet their friends, you know, tell me his lifestyle in the campus, his challenges, his likes and dislikes, you know, things like that. He really want to take the time to share his thoughts with you, which it's really happened when he was at home. So the longer it takes, I realize that the more appreciate he shows for the time that we spend together. So it becomes more valuable time. So he took me to the restaurants near the school, and he told me that, you know, we went to this restaurant before, and, you know, things like that. So you know, I told everybody that distance makes a beautiful for relationship, and he started to appreciate parents, the time that we can spend together. So I think that, and also he learned to be more independent. So he didn't need to wash clothes at home. So we have a nanny to do everything. So he learned how to wash clothes by using a washing machine. And he learned how to use detergent. So, so he asked questions like those.
Right. He's probably ready for college then.
Yeah. So he's more capable kid now. Yeah.
Sure. And I hear that a lot from families where, you know, just the time that you have together is more special because so much of the day-to-day, you know, did you do your homework? Did you brush your teeth? That sort of thing. Kids learn to do that on their own here at boarding school and take care of those things so that when you're together, it's just quality time to enjoy each other's company and have fun. So I hear that over and over again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Lily, that was our final question. So I'll turn it over to Owen to see if any of our guests have any questions for you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
well, Lily and Allison, thank you both so much. Lily, thank you for sharing your insights and for doing such a great job of highlighting your web experience for our attendees. For our attendees listening, if you have questions for Lily, now is the time. If you wouldn't mind clicking on the Q&A box and typing those questions in, we will go ahead and jump right in and answer them. So our very first question, Lily, what is your favorite web memory thus far? If you had to pick one.
I think the first time that I attended the basketball game, that he was competing with other school, the team from the other school, and I was very impressed. Before the game, you know, our students, our team members, you know, they tend to, you know, try to, you know, kind of prepare for it, and then having some like basketball plays among themselves. And I surprisingly see that their skills are pretty good. They look very handsome, for by the way. So and then the game is really looks like a real game, you know. They were trying very hard, and then I went to buy 20 plus In-N-Out burgers for them. So when I went to buy the burger, you know, there was a radio, you know, intercom, right? So the In-N-Out staff were like, 20? Are you sure? 20? Not 2? So I bought 20, and they had fun after they were enjoying the food and talking to the coach to have the final wheel of the game and things like that. So I think that's the most remarkable memory for me in Webb.
Very good, thank you. And along those lines, regarding Eugene's involvement in basketball, we've had a couple of parents who have asked about their children playing sports and wanting to try new sports that they maybe have not necessarily played before. Based on what you observed with Eugene, if a student has not had the opportunity to play a sport before, will there still be options for them to get involved and have a good athletics experience at Webb?
Yeah, definitely. Every semester they have they need to choose one sport among all those offers. I remember Eugene, every time when he need to make a selection, he always call me and ask me, you know, what's my recommendation is. So actually, you know, the choices are quite a lot. Many of them I haven't never experienced myself. So I, you know, before I make a recommendation to him, I need to search what it is, you know.
Hello.
So like cross country, right? So he has to run, you know, like 7 miles per day and things like that. But I think that he really enjoyed it, and he really have experience with different sports to find his own interest. Yeah, so I think that's a very good thing. And I can also see his body change, you know, after the cross country run for the semester, he's become more muscular and tough and strong. And when I walk with him, he's, oh, you know, because we went on a tour together in Singapore, so we need to, you know, we need to have a lot of walking. He's like, oh, you know, there's nothing, you know, so compared to what I did in Webb.
Keep up, Mom.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, Ms. Chen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And Ms. Hanson, thank you as well for being such a fantastic moderator. And to our attendees who are listening, thank you as well for joining us. It's been our pleasure hosting you today. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but please do visit our website and please do stay in touch with us in the days ahead for some more exciting programming. And of course, if you ever have any questions for any of us, please reach out to us and we would love to chat with you in the days ahead. So Ms. Chen, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Allison.
Wonderful.
Great, Lily. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.